Okay? Imagine this. You have no army, no money, no political power, no internet. You're wanted by the government. Half your leaders have already been executed, and somehow, you take on the most powerful empire the world has ever seen, and you win. That's not a movie plot. That's the actual documented historical story of the early church. And today, we're telling it from the beginning. Buckle up. This is going to be good. Jerusalem, 33 AD. 120 people are hiding in a room, doors locked, terrified. Their leader, Jesus, was just publicly executed. The authorities are still watching. Everyone is scared. And then, whoosh! Wind fills the room, fire appears above their heads. And these 120 frightened, ordinary people, fishermen, tax collectors, a former prostitute, burst out into the streets speaking languages they've never learned. The crowd outside is confused. Some think they're drunk. It's 9 in the morning. Peter, the guy who literally denied knowing Jesus just weeks earlier, stands up in front of thousands of strangers and gives the most important speech of his life. 3,000 people believed that day. 3,000 in one day. The church is born, and it is already moving fast. These new believers don't just go home. They form a community. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to breaking of bread, and to prayer. They shared their possessions. They ate together daily. This wasn't just a religion. It was a whole new way of life. Now here's where it gets interesting. The religious leaders are not happy. This new movement is spreading fast, and they want it stopped. So they do what powerful people do. They make an example of someone. Stephen, a young, bold believer, dragged before the council, given a chance to back down. He doesn't back down. He gets stoned to death. First Christian martyr, gone. And standing there, holding the coats of the men throwing rocks, is a guy named Saul, who hates Christians, like professionally hates them. It's basically his job. Here's the plot twist. That persecution backfires spectacularly. Believers scatter across the region and take the message with them everywhere they go. You try to stamp out a fire, and instead, you spread burning embers across the whole field. And then Saul himself. On his way to arrest more Christians, Saul gets knocked off his horse by a blinding light. Jesus speaks to him directly. The most dangerous enemy of the church becomes its most powerful voice overnight. He changes his name to Paul, and he basically spends the next 30 years unstoppable, planting churches everywhere, writing letters that become half the New Testament, getting beaten, shipwrecked, bitten by a snake, thrown in prison, and still won't stop. So what's it actually like being a Christian in the Roman Empire? Imagine you're at work. Your boss says everyone has to sacrifice to the Roman gods today. Standard procedure. You say no. You're at the market. Someone asks you to swear by Caesar. You say no. Your neighbor invites you to a temple feast. You say no. Every single day is a choice, and every no puts a target on your back. So Christians get creative. They meet in houses, they meet underground, literally in the catacombs beneath Rome. Miles of tunnels. They carved fish symbols into the walls. The Chi Rho, the first 2 Greek letters of Christ. Secret signs for a secret community. But here's the thing that blew Romans' minds. These people were different, like genuinely, noticeably different. When a plague hit the city and wealthy Romans ran, Christians stayed and nursed the sick. When babies were abandoned on the street to die, a common Roman practice, Christians picked them up and raised them. They fed people who weren't even in their community. A Roman critic literally wrote, and this is a real quote, "Look how they love one another." He meant it as a complaint, but it's actually the best review the church ever got. 64 AD, Rome burns. Half the city is destroyed in a massive fire. People are furious and want someone to blame. Emperor Nero, who is, let's be honest, absolutely unhinged, points at the Christians. What happens next is genuinely horrifying. Christians are fed to lions in the arena, covered in animal skins and hunted by dogs, dipped in tar and set on fire to light Nero's garden parties at night. Peter is executed. Paul is executed. The two most important figures in the early church, gone. And it doesn't stop with Nero. For the next 250 years, Rome keeps coming. Domitian exiles the Apostle John to a remote island where John writes the book of Revelation. Trajan arrests Ignatius of Antioch and ships him to Rome to be killed in the arena. On the way there, Ignatius writes 7 letters, full of joy. Not despair, joy. The man is literally traveling to his death, and he's encouraging everyone else. Decius makes it official. Empire-wide law. Everyone must sacrifice to Roman gods or die. Diocletian goes hardest of all. Burns churches, confiscates scriptures, arrests every clergy member he can find. And after every single wave of persecution, the church is larger than before. A Christian writer named Tertullian said it best. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. Rome kept watering the garden. The garden kept growing. Okay, real talk. What was this faith that was worth dying for? Because here's what gets me. These weren't people who inherited Christianity from their parents. There was no Christian culture yet. No Christmas traditions, no church buildings, no centuries of history behind them. They chose this, knowing full well what it could cost them. And what they believed was surprisingly simple and consistent across the whole empire. Jesus is fully God and fully human. He died for humanity's sins. He rose from the dead on the 3rd day. He's coming back. That's it. That's the core. Every Sunday, the day of resurrection, they gathered. They read the scriptures. They prayed together. They shared bread and wine in remembrance of Jesus. They took care of widows and orphans. They baptized new believers. Same thing. Rome to Britain, Egypt to Syria, house churches in back alleys and caves underground. One faith, spreading like wildfire. By 300 AD, just 3 centuries after that terrified group of 120 people in a locked room, Christians make up roughly 10% of the entire Roman Empire. No army, no money, no political power, just a story they believed with everything they had. And a love that Romans couldn't explain.